Welcome to Seals on the Move. I'm Alex Seals.
And I'm Rosie Seals.
Today we're in Johnson City, Tennessee at East Tennessee State University for a question and answer session with Josh Peck of Nickelodeon's Drake and Josh and Disney Plus's Turner and Hooch. Josh reveals funny moments from his life and how Drake and Josh came to be, and even gives some inspiration to the crowd. So let's get a move on with Seals on the Move. To be honest, Rosie and I are fans of Turner and Hooch. We never got into Drake and Josh.
First, we have Mr. Jay, our interim assistant director of the Multicultural Center, and Bethany from Housing Assignment Coordinator. And now, are you ready for the man of the hour? All right, I don't think y'all are ready, because that was kind of weak. Come on, are y'all ready? I think y'all can do it a little bit better. Are you ready? All right, give it up one more time for Josh Peck.
I'm guarded. I've been hurt. Couple people. Look at this great group. Here we are. Guys, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I drove here from Atlanta.
Yeah. Happy to be here with you.
I know. Yo, there are many states in between here and Atlanta if you take the wrong route. I was like, are these both Carolinas? I'm like, if I don't get to see Daddy Nolan, I'm gonna lose it. Get here. Thank God I'm here. Jay, Bethany, I love you guys.
Me too.
Man, you guys want to adopt me? Like, I don't know.
We can.
I mean, a little, yeah.
I would love it. Okay, we'll make this like an interview, and then at the end, you'll see if you want to.
We've got the paperwork backstage. I mean, we can get this taken care of.
I'm a notary, so it's very official.
Well, it sounds like you had a really great time coming up here. Here in East Tennessee, we've got a lot of beautiful mountains, lots of things to do. Have you ever been to this part of the country before, or are you just now hitting it on your tour?
No, I don't. I have been to the state of Tennessee before, but this is my first time in beautiful Johnson City. I tried your local Bojangles. I was like, I passed about 1,800 of them driving here, and I was like, I'm gonna need to try this mystery place. So it was right by the college. I got here a few minutes early. I'm like, well, that's God. I need to sample this. And I order, and I'm like, and I'm trying to talk to the woman on the speaker, and she's like, what would you like? I'm like, what would you suggest? She's like, sir, this is Bojangles. A wine pairing? Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then I drove up and she's like, she opens the window and she's like, that'll be 11. She's like, Josh Peck? At the Bojangles? In Johnson City? I was like, I'm gonna need some extra sauce. A delicious eatery. Shout out Bojangles, sponsor of my book tour.
Well, speaking of your book, let's talk a little bit about your new book, Happy People Are Annoying. So what made you want to branch out and write a book?
Wow, it's interesting, right? Because like, I know maybe some of you or many of you sort of grew up watching me on TV and whatnot, and I've had like this really unique sort of experience, and I realized like I love a good memoir or a self-help book. I like to put them on my bookcase and not read them, but just I'm just happy to know they're there. But a lot of these books, right? Because like, and I don't mean to project, but even when you're in college, like life is throwing a lot at you all the time, right? And it used to be that you compared yourself to your neighbor or someone at work or someone at school. Now it's like we're comparing ourselves against like Kylie Jenner and people on Instagram. Like it's impossible, right? Like it's just we're constantly in this crazy loop. So I wanted to write this thing to be like, look, I'm not anyone that special or great, but I've had like this interesting life, and here I am at 35, and I want to like share with you my life. And when I tell these stories in the book, like you can be like, wait, he was 21 and feeling that? Like he was locked in a treehouse on TV at that moment. Like, he was insecure then? But like there are all these moments in my life that, if any of you grew up watching me, like you could point to and be like, wow, like here I was watching him on TV being like, wow, I would love to be there. And yet he was going through his own challenges. So it seemed like a unique opportunity.
So that is one thing that I really enjoyed about your book, is it was very real. It did make you very relatable when you're going through some of the trials that you went through and the feelings that you had. I felt like you were very honest in the book, and I'm like, I felt those ways too. I felt like that in my dark days and my sad days. Even as happy people, we have days like that.
Sure.
And kind of making that about the title of the book, Happy People Are Annoying. As a happy person, that's not the first time I've heard that. That's not the first time I've heard that today. But where did you come up with the title?
Well, Bethany, you're the goal, as we know, and I'm trying. I think, look, happy people, people who don't obsessively scroll Instagram or like call you back when they say who they will, or have the right amount of items in the express line at the grocery store annoy me. I'm like, you really seem to have it all together. Like I'm there with 15 items being like, she won't notice. But I just feel like I used to think like that I was born without a manual for life, right? And then it seemed like everyone else just had this manual on how to like not think too much and not be insecure and not like go through all these different challenges that I went through. And so I think that's what I thought happy people were, and that annoyed me, that some people were just born into like perfect behavior. But throughout my life and walking through these challenges and whatnot, I found some of that happy that I was seeking. So now I'm one of those annoying people, and I can't believe it.
So in the book you talk about a path to redemption. So what do you do to help your mental health when everything seems to be going wrong?
Ice cream. So much. I guess why don't I start at the beginning a little bit. So many of you don't know, I started off as a chubby boy. I was slightly thicker than others. I enjoyed a fruit snack. I would black out and I'd just wake up and there'd be gushers everywhere. Fruit roll-up coming out of my face. Oh, I can't do this anymore. Where are my Pokemon cards? And there's this saying that like, funny people are usually funny for very unfunny reasons. And for me, like growing up chubby, like I didn't want to be the sad chubby kid. I didn't want to be like, life's meaningless, I'm starving. Like I wanted to tell jokes. I wanted to make you laugh before you could like make fun of me. I wanted to control the energy of the room. It was like a defense mechanism. And it turned into this beautiful thing, because all of a sudden I like start doing comedy, like stand-up comedy in New York City when I'm 10 years old, because it wasn't going to be Little League for me. I was not an athletic boy. and so I'm doing stand-up comedy, and my favorite show growing up was this show, which I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It was called All That. And it was like, like SNL for kids, and that was what I wanted to do more than anything. And I would audition for Nickelodeon like all the time. I was 11, 12 years old, and I'd be like, listen, I'm chubby, funny, and ambitious. You need me. I am your recipe, trust me. And so I would audition for these things, and then finally I wound up booking this movie called Snow Day. And I'm 12 years old, and first time I went out of the country, and I'm like in Canada doing this movie, and I'm kind of making this guy laugh one day on set. And my mom, kind of being the great Jewish mother that she is, sort of sidles up to me and she's like, yo, like that's the president of Nickelodeon. Like, he thinks you're funny. Tell him you want to be on all that. And I did, and 9 months later, he called me up at home and he was like, I'm gonna fly you and your mom to California and you're gonna star in the Amanda Show. And I was like, and that was the call that changed my life. So, like, the beautiful silver lining of all the challenges, things that we face in life, this skill that I had acquired, because I was insecure, all of a sudden was giving me this life that, like, I could have never imagined, you know?
So when you started acting in TV, you started on the Amanda Bynes Show,
Yeah.
and then you got your own show, the Drake and Josh Show, which, if I can just say, cultural phenomenon.
So you've heard of it. Thank you so much. They're like, that's the only reason we're here. We know you did other stuff, but we don't care. I don't blame you.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience being that age, having your own show, and then what you think the show's impact has been on us culturally, socially, and then especially with your social media?
Oh, thank you. It's a great question. I love talking about this. So, okay, so I'm on the Amanda Show, and Drake and I start doing these scenes together because he's on the Amanda Show too, and we're starting to like have some good chemistry, right? It's kind of like people are feeling this thing. And the guy who created the Amanda Show had done a bunch of different shows on Nickelodeon, and he gets a call halfway through, and they're like, yo, we need another buddy comedy for Nickelodeon, because he had created Kenan and Kel. Like, do you have an idea? And he was like, nope. And that was it. And cut to the last episode of the Amanda Show, Drake and I are in this scene where we're fighting over a gigantic shrimp because, of course, and comedy genius. And one of the writers sort of walks up to Dan, the creator of our show, and goes, hey, you see those two idiots wrestling on the ground for that shrimp? That's your next show. And cut to, we're on set 6 months later, and I mean, it was a dream. It was a dream. It was the exact kind of comedy that I love, that I still love. Like, I love being big and shticky and making people laugh. It was such a special thing. People always ask my favorite episode, and a lot of, that's the bomb. I like the sushi one. And classic episodes. I like a deeper track, a deeper cut, which is this episode where it's the first 6 episodes, we're like 14 years old, and it's where we're babysitting a baby. Memories, am I right? I'm right here with you. I was there. And we lose the baby on the roof, and I remember there was this scene, right, where, we have like an actual human baby playing a baby. They're not very good at anything else. And the joke in the script is that we're like trying to give the baby a bath, and he starts to pee on us. And so they have all this sort of like special effects rigging, this tubing to do sort of like the fake pee gag, and it's me and Miranda, our little sister here, and Drake, and of course they yell action, and the baby starts to pee on us in real life, and I'm just like, and I'm here, and like Miranda's here, she's not in a good place, and I'm just like, I'm getting paid for this. This is ridiculous, and then to just see the effect the show has had. Now, like, we haven't shot it for over 10 years, and it's lasting power, and I think it's because kids shows tend to have, like, kind of wild premise, like, it's, like Wizards, or no shade on Wizards of Waverly Place. Selena Gomez comes out, she's like, Zach and Cody are like, what's up, dog? You trying to go right now? Doing very well for themselves, those boys. But it's like Drake and Josh was a simple simple concept. It was a family, right? Like a new family comes together, brothers who are totally different have to learn how to get along, and they've got an evil little sister, but it's very relatable. And I think the effect that it's had long term, like the way people come up to me still to this day means so much to me. And like, I mean, okay, I got a quick story. So like, it'll be mad random. Like the other day, I'm like walking through TSA security at the airport, and the guy checks my ID, and he's like, "You good?" And I walk by, and he's like, "Hug me, brother." What? Just drive by, hug me, brother, man? What? Or again at the airport, this guy's going through like my luggage, because I guess I look shady, and he's like, "Yo, your sister, she got tricks." He's like, "Don't worry, one day you and Drake are gonna get her back." You good, Josh Nichols? One guy at the airport literally was like, "Hey bro, come here. And I came over, he's like, "You're from Drake and Josh?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "But you didn't play the first guy. You're the new one." I was like, "No, I'm both. I'm both. I just used to eat my feelings." He's like, "Oh, good for you." I have to think a lot about that. Or, President Obama talked about Drake and Josh on like one of his final speeches in office. He's like, I don't know what he was talking about. He was talking about kids' TV. And he's like up there and he's talking and he's like, "Folks," no. He's like, "Michelle," no. He's like, "I know what the kids like. They like SpongeBob. They like Josh and Drake." I was like, he said my name first. He said my name first. Oh man. Oh, and then I'll stop talking about it. The last time, the craziest time was I was in Amsterdam once at like 22 years old, and it was like 1 a.m. I was at a coffee shop just getting coffee. I was smoking a jazz cigarette, and there's this guy, this like cool British kid, and it's fit, it's great. He's got like the perfectly tailored Adidas track pants. And I'm like, "I want to be you, man." Looking like Ted Lasso and whatnot. And he's just there, and he sees me from across the way, and he goes, "Hoi." I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, I know you. Yeah, that funny old chubby one." I was like, "Thank you so much." So I was like, wow, we made it to Amsterdam. But yeah, it's crazy the sort of effect that the show has had.
So, what were some of your favorite lines from Drake and Josh?
Oh man, I mean, "Hug Me Brother" is a classic. "Truther," "I ain't calling you a truther," that's a good one. "Megan." But the funniest is I just did, next month, I have 2 episodes of iCarly coming out, of the new iCarly. And Miranda is like my sister. Like, I just love her, and she's just the greatest person. And we're just randomly sitting, like, talking about something that has nothing to do with Drake and Josh, and she goes, "You know how many people come up to me and ask me to call them a boob?" I was like, "Miranda, I'm so sorry. It sounds terrible." She's like, "I do it." I was like, "Good for you." I might not. No.
So, going a little bit personal,
Sure.
you're a dad.
I am. I procreated.
Yeah.
Thank
I mean, really, we can just branch off from there. You just talk about your kid for the rest of the session. I think everyone would be thrilled.
you. Yeah, you
but
want to see pictures? I'm that
I would say no.
Thank you. I just had a kid because I needed a new phone wallpaper, really.
But how has having a child kind of changed your views on TV and media consumption and things like that?
Oh, wow. It's a great question. I mean, from the start, it completely shifted my life right from the moment of his birth, because that was so traumatic. Because watching your kid come into this world, I'm like, I'll never be the same. And my wife actually had, I don't think she'd mind me saying it, and I should have asked, but she had a C-section, so it's like, it's like a proper surgery. And so while they're like preparing her for that, I'm sitting outside, they're like, Dad, you're useless. Like literally useless. So you like, if this was, different, maybe you could hold the leg. You are, sit down, don't talk. I'm like, and they were like, here's some painter's overalls. They're like, put this on, because we don't want to put you in scrubs, so we confuse you with someone who actually knows what they're doing. And like, just put these on, and we'll invite you into the operating room when it's time. I'm like, bet. So I put on these scrubs, and I'm like, taking selfies. And then they invite me in, and all I can see is my wife's head, and I'm like, yo, I'm like a doer. Like, I like to be a part, I'm a people pleaser. And so I'm like, I have no purpose right here except to like hype her up. So I'm like, you're the best, you're an inspiration, you're Oprah, you're everything. You're fulfilling your nature, the calling of nature, and like, she's like, shut up, and I'm like, gotcha. And then the baby comes out, and the doctor goes, oh, he's so cute, huge head. And I was like, he's mine. That's my son. Similar proportions, doctor, look, it's oblong. Should have had a helmet, Mom. And so then like, you have this like proper human, and then the hospital a day or two later is like, okay, go home. And you're like, can you come? Me? I'm Josh from Drake and Josh. I'm not equipped. And then you raise this human to be like, at the best version of, hopefully a better version of yourself. And the other day, my son's in school, he's 3 years old, and he came home and he's like, Dad, do you know that Pluto's a dwarf planet? And I'm like, what are you trying to prove? Easy, stick to, figuring out numbers. But he's great, I don't think he knows what an icon I am yet, but we're working on it. I whisper it to him as I put him down to sleep. It's like, your dad's a legend. Generations know me.
Since we're already on like the personal part, so what do you like to do in your free time away from the camera?
Oh man, I don't like to be away from the camera, Jay. Look, I'm a normal Johnson City guy. I like to go to Capone's. I like to just have a little me time. Be with my peeps. Just hang out, low key. Hard body karate. Down to clown.
So, it's kind of going along that same thing.
Really?
Personal, not the club, not the club. So, in your book, you did talk a lot about your family, especially your mom, your relationship with her and how she supported you. And this is hands down my favorite question that we've gotten submitted.
Oh.
Josh, how's your mom?
Oh, thank you. Who submitted that? Anyone want to take ownership of that one?
I'm not gonna lie, that was me.
Okay. Love you even more. My mom is great. She's hilarious. She's 77. All she cares about is what I'm eating. So she's gonna love the Bojangles ride.
There we go.
Like if I call her tonight and start telling her, she's like, hold on. Okay, I'm Googling the franchise. She'll be like, I want pictures so I know what you're eating. She's the best. Not so happy I didn't dedicate the book to her. I dedicated it to like a family friend who had passed away, and because I had figured that, so many like single mom, only child, and never knew my dad, and like I figured so many of the chapters were like this love story to her.
Right.
And just how much I appreciate her and what she gave me, and where I really wouldn't be here without her. She's like, that's nice.
But
Not a dedication. So Barbara's fair. Okay, it's not great.
is your favorite comfort food?
Bojangles now.
Bojangles. Bojangles is great. Wow, favorite comfort. I'm a carb queen, to be honest. It's just like, I like pastas, I like various sauces. Yes, pasta. If I ever run for public office, it's gonna be myself. I'm like, more pastas in all higher education. I love, now, I hope I'm not saying too much, but we were chatting earlier about how you're, well, Jay, you're working towards your doctorate, and you're thinking about going towards that, and I barely graduated high school. Parents, this is where your tuition's going. Bringing people like me here. So let me ask you this, because obviously doctor within an educational institution, yes, you know, Daddy Nolan, Dr. Nolan, yes. Do we use doctor in all things? For instance, you're at the Cheesecake Factory. Is the res under Dr. J?
Probably in the first year, it'll be under Dr. J.
I like that. Okay.
You gotta just put it out there.
Yeah, Dr. J. I love it. Everything, right? Everything. If they ask for a doctor on an airplane, are you gonna be like, I'm out?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna be like, well, he's in cardiac arrest, but I can teach him about higher education.
Probably. I might just be like, no. My mom's with me, she'll probably be like, he's a doctor. No.
Mom.
Not that doctor.
I love it. I really want to be in a moment to save someone, but hopefully I'll get lucky. I don't have many skills. I'm great at infant CPR. That sounds weird to say, but I am accredited. Dude, that's real. Dude, I'll tell you this story about my son. Another one my wife will love. Guys, feel free to forward it to her on Instagram so she can be mad at me after. My son, when he was born, like for the first 2 or 3 days we were in the hospital, and the last night, the nurses and the doctors are so lovely, and they're like, hey, why don't you guys let us take the baby to the nursery? You guys sleep for 6 hours because you'll never sleep again. And I'm like, great, yes, right, babe? Let them take them. And so they come in, an hour later, we're asleep, and the doctor comes in, she's like, hey, no big deal, but we noticed your son was kind of like, you know, pooping. And they go, and he kind of like was pushing, and he kind of lost his breath for a second, and he turned a little gray. He just stopped breathing for a second. But then he caught his breath, fine. He's fine, just wanted to tell you. And I go, hold up. My son was trying to go so hard. Hold up. He was going so hard, he took his own breath away. They're like, yeah, pretty much. So it gets very real very quick.
So are we thinking more kids or just maybe more dogs, maybe a goldfish, something that's not so stressful?
Well, I'm allergic to dogs, which is hilarious because I was just on a show last year called Turner and Hooch.
Right.
Where I played, basically it's a cop and a dog. And so I was taking a lot of Zyrtec. And I remember, you know, on the show, it's on Disney Plus, and basically I play like this U.S. Marshal, like this proper federal law enforcement officer, and I've got this like gigantic 120-pound, you know, French Mastiff. And so it's the first day that we're filming with the dog, and the scene is, I've like got this bad guy like dead to rights at the end of this alley, but he's hiding, so I'm like on high alert, and I've got like my weapon out, and I'm like kind of stalking him down the alley. Anyone who has a desire to create art can do that.
So then that does beg the question, what was your favorite item to make on social media, whether it was Vine or YouTube or anything like that? What's your favorite one?
Oh my gosh, I mean, I love Vine. I mean, there's still Vines to me, like and they were roommates. It's just so good. We did it, bitches, cookie crumble swirl. What was that one? That was a deeper track, sorry guys. But like, I love Vine, and YouTube is a great example because I spent like a year trying to vlog and trying to like be the guy who talks into his camera at the airport, and I just felt uncomfortable, and my views were dismal. Like, it was not catching on, it was not pretty, but for some reason I kept creating content. And it took me a year of that like research and development phase, and my friend, my co-host of the Male Models podcast, Joe Volpes. Oh, thank you, Joe needs that. I don't blame you, he's the best. I get to sit across from him constantly. I'm so sorry, we'll talk after. But, I remember he said to me, he was like, he's an apostle in my life too. Like, he said, why don't you try being in front of the camera? He's like, because you've always sort of made your living being in front of the camera, and with you vlogging, you're worried about lighting and being in focus and all this stuff. He's like, let me hold the camera and you be funny. And so I remember I was like, okay, so what would be comfortable for me? And mukbangs were really starting to catch on then. So I'm like, let me order some chicken wings. Let me call Trisha Paytas. I was like, Trisha, I'm gonna eat a bunch of chicken wings on camera. Do you want to be in it? She's like, I'm 5 minutes away. And we just, talked like we were at dinner. Like, we just talked for half an hour, and that video got 5 million views. And so suddenly, by me being myself and me being willing to like take some good advice and some contrary action, something really connected. And I always say, like, if you're wondering who an apostle is in your life, just think about the last person who gave you some advice or told you something you weren't ready to hear, and you thought, I'm the worst. They're probably right, but it's too late. Fine, I'll do it. Like, those are the things that go through my mind when someone has told me something that I need to hear, but maybe I'm not sort of ready to receive it yet. So that's what Joe said, and he was very right.
So, I wasn't even prepared yet.
The thing is hard being up here because we're listening and laughing. I'm trying to hold the microphone away from me because I'm very loud. But then it's like, oh yeah, we gotta ask stuff too.
You guys are doing a beautiful job, especially because we saw a bear on campus, which is kidding. Do you guys have bears on campus? They should put that in the brochure. Daddy Nolan's like, how do we create a major around the bears? Wildlife, go, I'm working here, Jay, come on, I need ideas.
Well, we did just add, I think, brewing as a minor, like beer brewing.
Beer brewing? Maybe a fun kombucha?
There we go.
We're fans of all fermentation here,
So, if you wasn't working in media, what would be a career that you could be doing?
Oh my gosh, could you imagine me as a doctor? Dr. Peck? You'd have a hard time listening to me.
Okay, listen, my last name is Dye. I don't think I could be in the medical field.
Dr. Dye? That sounds like a podcast. That's good. Well, like, can you imagine if I was like your general practitioner and I like come up and I'm like, hey, your chart, look at your chart. It's a lot of stuff. So I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have eczema. I think you'd be like, okay, let me get a cream. I'm like, I'll cry with you. No, I think it can be resolved with some sort of balm, some sort of ointment. So I don't know, I think I would like to be, honestly, I would like to be an orchestra conductor, because that is like my secret desire, because I don't really, wow. People are triggered, they're like, that's it. His son pooping, that was fine, but orchestra conductor, I can't. But yeah, I think being an orchestra conductor would be really cool. What, see me do it? But it's just, guys, this is gonna be.
We have a great band with bluegrass on campus, they're gonna know. So you're gonna need to show them.
No, like I started like doing like TikTok dance moves, like. She's gonna be on her phone, like in bed, and she's gonna be like watching a video, and I'll just see a look like this. Like where I'm seeing like her calculating how hard it would be to divorce me. It's so cool to get married because divorce becomes very difficult. So much paperwork. And now we own property. It's like, I got her locked up.
You gotta give a whole lot to be able to justify all of that trouble.
Yeah, it's looking good. I mean, like, even, no, I'm so lucky to be with my wife. Like, my wife is, besides all her wonderful qualities, like, she comes from this very, like, I come from this pretty, like, musical theater, like, you know, background, and my mom is a performer, and her family is, like, proper, you know, her dad was a professional football player, proper, very cool, athletic, just tall, they're all tall. And I remember, like, even, you know, when I asked I asked my wife's father for permission when I was gonna, you know, propose to her. And even that was, like, so out of my comfort zone, because I remember, like my father-in-law's name is Ken, which is so manly. It's like J, you know, 3 letters, like, let's chop a tree. Can you imagine me chopping a tree? And so, like, I knew I wanted to propose to my wife, and I was feeling pressure because this sounds cooler than I am, but I was going to Paris Fashion Week to go do some social media stuff, and my wife was coming, and we'd been together for almost 5 years at that time. So I, like, knew that she was getting a couple people in her ear, her aunt, who was like, Paris, pretty romantic. Might come back with a friend. Okay, so the time has come. So I, like, wind up driving to her house, and I see her dad out in the garage, and you know, it's a big family, right? The house is always busy. Of course, I, like, pull up, and her dad's like, hey, no one's in the house. Like, do you know where everybody is? Like, it's just me here. And I'm like, okay, got it. So we're, like, sitting in the garage, such a manly place, tools everywhere, water filters and whatnot. And I said, hey, Ken. And he goes, yeah. I want to ask you something. I wanted to ask your permission to marry Paige. And he goes, oh. Well, you know, if you like her or you love her and she loves you, then yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, you have my permission. And I was like, bet. And then, like, a bunch of seconds passed, and I was like, how are you? He's like, yo, I can't do small talk right now. So and so then, you know, the next day, before we went to Paris, I you know, proposed to her, and I'm very lucky. She gets me. She gets the Josh Peck effect. So it's very nice.
So, reading through your book, learning a whole lot that I didn't know about you.
Yes.
You've had some turning points, major things. You moved across the country to go into your acting career. You moved quite a few times. You have kind of shifted from doing TV acting to doing social media, and now you wrote a book. You've had just a lot of big twists and turns. So do you have any advice for anyone when they're looking at those major life changes? How do you make those decisions?
Wow, I look up to you guys, and I think, like, people coming out, and I don't mean to project, but I would imagine slightly the thought would be like, here you are, you've got this excellent education, and, you know, you're young, and there's so much ahead of you, and it's like the moment you graduate, the moment you get out of college, it's like, I need to stake my claim now, like, I need to achieve, I need to be there. You know, we're constantly, like, compare and despair, right? We're all looking at these perfectly manicured, curated lives on Instagram and whatnot, telling us that we just need to, like, hustle a little harder and buy athletic greens and mud water. I don't know, maybe that's just my algorithm. Those are the ads I'm getting. But, you know, it's a lot of pressure, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I would say that, like, allowing a good life to be the result of good living, and not being in that rush, and knowing that, like, it's incredibly important to try things and not feel, I mean, I talk about this in the book, I was 32 years old, having the career that I had up until that point, and doing well on social media, but kind of, like, stalled out in my professional career, and going, like, what do I do? Like, I got a wife and a kid, like, my life is so full, I'm so lucky, and yet there's this part that I feel like is unfinished, and I don't want to let it sabotage the rest of my life. And I called a buddy in that moment, and he's like, your life up until this point has been an anomaly. You can't let the fact that you're 32 allow you to feel like you're not allowed to be thoroughly human and be like, I don't know, you know, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I want it to be okay to be human and ruthlessly human and flawed and to be unsure. You won't know the grand timetable into which, you know, how things are going to come at you. So I remember I interviewed Neil Brennan, the comedian for my podcast, and he was like, you know what? You'll probably get everything you always wanted, just not in the way you expected it. And then he took a beat and said, actually, you'll probably get everything you always wanted, but by the time you get it, you won't want it anymore. So I think it's just important to, you know, accept that you are exactly where you're supposed to be right in this moment. And the miracle is the attempt. You know, it's not the result. It's the fact that you could try. So if you put everything into trying, look, this book, everything that I do, it's just like, it's a great swing. And some of it really connects, and some of it's a stinker. But it's all part of the journey.
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
I guess since we are on the advice track of our conversation, so, you know, who order should we get?
Fine, Jay, let's go there.
I mean, we're gonna go, hey, this is question A.
I was a bigger boy. Absolutely.
So what are some words of advice that you can give anyone out here that might be struggling with weight?
Well, you know what? I was like a very, I always say like our awkward teenage years, we all go through them, and for most of us, we grow out of it, and then we swear our families to secrecy and burn our yearbooks. But my awkward teenage years are in reruns, which is super cute. Look, I remember when I was 12 years old, I would see other kids who were like not the traditionally like super thin sort of body type that it felt most kids were at that age. And they would like whip their shirts off and jump in the pool as I'm putting on like a second turtleneck, being like, wait for me, guy. Marco. And I would look at them like superheroes because they couldn't care less. And what I would say to that is like, that is so valid and beautiful, right? Like, because being bigger can be a manifestation of just loving life and eating great food and enjoying yourself. For me, being bigger was a manifestation of some other stuff that I was insecure in. It was some things I had to work on. So I think for me, it was like when I was 17 years old, I was kind of like sick and tired. And I wanted to make a change, and it was a tough place to be in. But for me, pain has been a great motivator, because I never learned anything on a good day. You know, so what I would say to anyone out there who's struggling with that, who feels lost or frustrated at times, I'm sorry you're going through that, and I know how hard that can be, but the good news is it's a great place to start. And for me, that's been my truth. So I wish you a lot of luck, but I think you look great regardless.
So going through the struggles with your weight, with trying to be an actor at an extremely young age, the pressure of having a one-parent household, you went through that in the public eye. So what was it like going through some of the hard years that people normally go through, but you're going through it with people watching? You know, what was that like being so young, having so much going on? But also, you're an actor, people are watching you, and everything that happens, so many people see you. Kind of, what was that like, and how did that shape you kind of maybe differently than someone who wasn't going through it in the public eye?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. Like, when we were doing Drake and Josh, I was, 14 to 19. Like, it was a kid's show, and kids watching. It wasn't Stranger Things, or like, the moment it airs, it explodes, right? It was a show that families maybe watch, but every day I would come home from work and like go back to my 2-bedroom apartment and hang out with my buddies and have kind of a normal existence. And it's really only caught fire in the last like 5 or 10 years in reruns and memes and internet stuff. And whenever something bad happens in the world, there's just a picture of me going, Megan. It's a good meme. I'm memeable. I didn't have to worry about the balance that much. But then there will be times that are like thoroughly ridiculous where people will, like, I remember I was randomly at a spa with Justin Bieber once. And like, he's walking around, like this was like it kind of makes perfect sense why he was at this Russian bath in Hollywood. Because it's like, you're Justin Bieber, you're famous everywhere, and you're famous in Bojangles, you're famous at, you're famous at Red Lobster, everywhere, right? But maybe in a Russian bath, like a bunch of 80-year-old Russian cats, they're just like, what are you? So they're not impressed, and he's walking around enjoying. So I'm there, and it's like one of those rare times, because I would never do this, where I'm like, but I heard him say once, like, Drake and Josh is one of my favorite shows. I gotta see something. So I just like go up to him and I like dab him up real quick. I'm just like, hey, what's up, man? Nice to meet you. I just want to say hello. And he's like, I feel like we met before. And I'm like, no, I'd remember. You're Justin Bieber. And we wound up like chatting for like 3 hours. He's like telling me like on about favorite episodes. I'm like, Justin, enough. But he was a proper kid in Canada. Like, it was like watching Drake and Josh enjoying it. So it's like, to your point, there were certainly like challenging moments and where you feel like you are living sort of this public life when you're going through something that's very personal and can be a struggle at times. But then you remember that like in the same breath, we were making this show that was like making a lot of people happy, even Canada's treasure, Justin Bieber. So it was really, and TV is like has a superpower. I remember I was interviewing Zach Braff from Scrubs and so many other great shows, and he was on my pod and he told this story about how this was like the early 2000s, and George Clooney, if maybe this is before your time, before George Clooney was super crazy movie star, he was on a TV show called ER, and it was super popular. You guys know. And so this is like early 2000s, and him and Russell Crowe, proper movie star, and in the early 2000s, just won an Academy Award, crushing it, hard body karate. So he and Russell Crowe, Clooney and Russell Crowe are on a plane, and they get off the plane, and Russell Crowe walks into the airport, and everyone's like a little bit afraid to approach, because he's like a movie star, and there's an air about him, and it's just like, a little intimidating. And then Clooney walks out, and everyone goes, George! Like, because they're like, this guy's in my living room. Like, I know him. Like, and that's the power. When you're on TV, when you're in people's homes, like, they feel like they know you. And I always try to, appreciate that for the gift that it is.
So are there a lot of times where you're fanning out about meeting someone and then they do it right back at you and you're both just kind of
sitting definitely my next question.
Oh, wow. Fan for fan?
Fan for fan.
That's a good one. Let me see. I told the story on my podcast. Once I got to meet Kid Cudi, and I remember, I said that like such a dad, Kid Cudi? Kid Cudi? I remember my boy was on a TV show with him, this kid that I went to high school with. And so I wound up seeing him out one night at this club, because, you know what I'm saying, like, used to be young. And so I'm at the clear, and hey, let's have a cranberry juice. And my buddy's like, yo, like, good to see you, and he dabs me up real quick. He's like, yo, like, Scott's over there. I'm like, you mean Kid Cudi? I'm like, let's not call him by his real name. Okay, let's call him by his hero name. And he's like, yo, do you want to go meet Scott? And like, we're just hanging out. We're, all the people from the TV show. I was like, no, that's, I know that trap. Like, I know how famous people are, I can't. So I go up to him, and Kid Cudi grabs me by the face and goes, oh, I love Drake and Josh! And I was like, I love you, Kid Cudi! And I was like, so, he gives me his number, and I'm like, I know how this goes. I'm like, I'm about to get the green bubble. I'm like, this isn't gonna go anywhere. And he texts me the next day, and he's like, and I was like, yo, kid, what's up, man? What are you up to? And he's like, I'm shopping. And I'm like, where? Like, TJ Maxx? I'm like, Home Goods? He's like, Rodeo Drive. I'm like, oh, same. He's like, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm in my friend's basement playing video games. And he was like, you want to come to the studio tonight and listen to my new album? And I was like, yes, indeed, I would love to do that. And we just sat there and listened to his new album, and he invited over Kanye West's barber. He was like, do you want to get a haircut from Kanye West's famous barber? And I was like, I'm gonna pass. I was just recently, I was like, my hair's very Jewish and specific, and I don't know if he can decode what's going on here, but it's very generous. So yeah, there's certainly surreal moments where I'm like, this is stupid but incredible, and I'm very lucky.
So what has been like your most awkward encounter with another celebrity?
Oh, awkward celebrity encounter. I don't even know. I mean, like, you know what's awkward? I did this show called Grandfathered where I played John Stamos' son.
Right?
What's awkward is I can text John Stamos. I'll do it right now, bro. It's 5:15 in LA. He's probably sleeping. He goes to bed. He's almost 60, you know. But dude, I wish I played his son on a show called Grandfathered, which is very canceled, but it was a very fun show. And I like wish I could teleport to 13-year-old Josh and be like, yo, bro. One day we're gonna be able to pass for John Stamos' son. So cool out on the seconds. No, I'm kidding. But you know, it's just wild, like, cause you know, John Stamos, he smells like, I know you asked, so I'm gonna tell you. He smells like the inside of an old drawer, or like a leather-bound book, or like, he just smells like a dude, you know, like a man. He's just all man. And he's just like the loveliest guy. So it's like, yeah, that's just awkward that I can believe that he might, you know, text me back within the week. It's pretty surreal.
So on that same track, what's the wildest encounter you've had with a fan, like coming up and rushing you on the stage, or just standing outside your house, or really, what do I need to do to upstage them?
Bethany, what do you got? I'm here. I mean, weirdest encounter? I don't know. I've certainly had people who've been like, I'm gonna need you to say 5 lines from Drake and Josh and FaceTime my aunt.
Not like a whole list, like a Waffle House order.
Yeah.
I just need this, do this, but don't do that part.
Right, and I'll be like, we're at a CVS. I'm getting ibuprofen. I can't. I'll do one. So, you know, but yeah, people are weird.
So the bar's pretty low, is what you're saying.
The bar's pretty low, Bethany, so start thinking.
Awesome.
What are you,
Awesome.
Well, see, Capone's later, you can really turn up. Like, I just hope 2 or 3 people from tonight's show are like, just at Capone's tonight at 9:45, they're like, he said it. On the show. What, am I gonna wait on it? Well, can we, in this moment, can we get a big round of applause for Jay and Bethany, our incredible moderators?
They really didn't have to ask. As soon as we heard that this was gonna happen, we're like dialing Lexi in the office. We're like, hey, do you need help? Do you need people? Do you need people? I think you need people. Do you need anyone to like be near him? Because we would do that for you.
I can't believe these future doctors. I'm a hypochondriac. I like any kind of doctor. Even book doctors, you know what I'm saying? I know this school has a good nursing program. Any future nurses in our meeting? Incredible! Great. I'm not feeling great, so just keep an eye on me, please. So if I hit the deck, I have low blood sugar, and I'm dyslexic. So add that to my chart, please. Lock it in. Right here. If I go like this, I'm in trouble. If I scream Oklahoma, it's bad. The blood pressure through the roof. A lot of sodium. It's a Bojangles. You won't speak poorly of Bojangles. Take that back. I'm just gonna have a couple sips. It's like a desert.
So, I guess it's an anonymous question. But what is something that you love to do that you think like normal people take for granted?
Love to do that normal people take for granted. I don't, you know, I'm really into having a kid. I'm pretty sure that I've always wanted to go to trampoline parks and Dave & Buster's, and just now that I have a kid, it's less creepy than I am. You know, I'm not just like the one single dude like, my phone! That's my son. Told you. Come on, guys. I love it. Yeah, I'm all the things that kind of come with having a kid, the mundane things. I like hanging out with him. So I think that's probably like my highest. That's the thing where I just feel like the world kind of falls away.
So a lot of the questions that we've been asking were submitted beforehand, and some of the ones on these cards are ones from people that are here tonight. This question,
feel free to take credit, whoever.
Yeah, great. This question, you do great. You really described this experience really well in your book. But for those who didn't take 4 days back to back reading the book as soon as they got it in their hand, not to mention any names, kind of talking. Don't judge this. Don't judge this right now. Kind of going back to when you were younger and dealing with your weight issues. Do you have any, or did you have any concern losing weight and fearing people wouldn't find you funny? I've been overweight all my life and always felt like being the funny one, and that is their exact fear. I guess losing the weight, now they're not funny because it's kind of, they go together a lot.
I like this phrase, like, maybe you don't like the new me because you're still the old you. Well, I know. That's it. Good night. When I'm really worried about what you think, and I'm really worried about getting money or prestige or all those things, that voice gets really low. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I need to do this because look at how many zeros are there. Like, I need this. I want the full-size Honda SUV. I don't want just a mid-size sedan. I drive a BMW. But when I'm like, no, take the ego away, take worrying about people pleasing, taking all that away. What's that inner voice? Like, for me, that voice is always there. It's just about pulling things away. I used to think I had to add on. I just had to make myself the bigger, better version. But inevitably, it was about like stripping away, like who's the real me? Who's that 8-year-old kid whose best friend was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Ace Ventura and Billy Madison? And watching TV was like my escape. It was my babysitter, it was my best friend, the thing that kept me company at night. And so me becoming an actor felt like me paying a penance, like my debt to acting, to the arts, because it filled me up, it filled my heart so much. So like, if your desire is to get healthy, it's not about, the final result. It's just about feeling good in your own skin, no matter what version that takes. So whoever wrote that, my hat's off to them, and I think they're perfect.
So this will be our last question.
Sure.
And it's
Jay,
reference to
say
Drake
it
and
himself.
Josh.
Come on, Jay.
Somebody asked, how does it feel that you ran over Oprah?
I'm glad you guys are getting a fun little chuckle. It was traumatizing. No, okay. It was incredibly upsetting. I can't believe this. I follow her on Instagram because duh. The other day she was like, I really do love her. She was like eating this beautiful meal and she was like, I'm gonna have some more cornbread. She was like, I'm drinking rosé. And I'm like, treat yourself, queen. You deserve every bite. But yeah, I feel bad about it, and thank you for bringing it up, Jay.
I just had to ask.
Dude, I need to meet her. This is just me talking out, guys. Don't film this. I need to meet her, and I think it'll be the biggest social media post in the history of the world of just me standing with Oprah with the caption, "My bad." So fingers crossed.
Everybody give it up for Josh.
Thank you, guys.
Oh my God!
We hope you enjoyed this episode. What is your favorite show/film that features Josh Peck? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Share this with your friends who are in need of some Nickelodeon nostalgia, subscribe to stay up to date with future content, and hit the bell icon so that you are notified when we upload. If you would like to support us, our Patreon link is down below. As always, thanks for watching and supporting.